Today on the Topping Show, California Public Library has a vending machine that gives out free Plan B, lube, condoms, and more right next to an elementary school. Alex Jones to sue the CIA and FBI for civil rights violations. Tennessee passes a law allowing teachers to defend themselves and their students via the Second Amendment, which enrages Gavin Newsom. California school employee beats a disabled student on the bus. Scrabble removes the competition part of the game to attract Gen Z. Google to make their own chips. And Hyundai Kia repairing about 3.4 million vehicles due to a recent recall. All of that and much more on The Topping Show. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency in IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. Gotta say he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, you see, that's the joke. If you're an IT leader or a business owner, you reach the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you could click that button, I would greatly appreciate it. Now, going over to the business part of the podcast, you have Scrabble making a new version to removing the competition to attract Gen Z, which is another sad metaphor for modern society when more and more people acquiesce from competition, which is what made America great. Now, this comes to us thanks to Melissa Cantor over at LinkedIn News, and she noted that, quote, Mattel is rewriting the Scrabble rules for a new generation. In response to data suggesting that Gen Z is less competitive than the pre-1997 set, the toy maker is releasing a new version of the 75-year-old board game that's faster and more collaborative and less intimidating, unquote. Which, if you're intimidated by a board game, that is so pathetic. Words can barely describe and disgust. And it also shows how soft Americans have become. Now, they also note that the originalists should hold their expulsations. They also note that, quote, the new Scrabble Together, which dispenses with the competition and turns word formulation into a group effort, won't replace the original game. Its board is two-sided and accommodates both models of play. Plus, it will be played primarily by, quote, Queen's English speakers, and it's available in the UK, but not in the US, unquote. Yet. We see this with most trends because, again, there's a huge value in terms of mass production and having products that are just shared nationwide. So I like components in electronics vehicles. Eventually, in the global economy, it does make business sense to just pump them out and send them everywhere. Now, they note that Mattel holds a European license to Scrabble, but its brand is Hasbro's hands for stateside. So there's 3 toy companies left. Kidding. Kind of. Not really. There's been a lot of consolidation in that industry the past couple decades. They note that Gen Z may have a point about toning down the competition. According to a Mattel survey, 49% of Scrabble players have attempted to make up a word. What? So they try to cheat? I don't understand. Just because people are trying to cheat in the game doesn't mean they don't like the game. I mean, Shakespeare is famous for making up words. Now, granted, we know people aren't trying to be Shakespearean when they're actually playing the game. But, I mean, maybe this will sell off. Maybe this will just fly off the shelves like hotcakes. Or some popular toy like the Nintendo's. But, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how quickly it sells overseas and when it does migrate to the United States. Again, we're seeing so many of these things as people acquiesce from competition, and I mean, that's what makes America great, in my opinion, and the world. I mean, the best ideas, the best businesses, are all result from competition, free market. So let me know, do you think this will fly off the shelves and be a brilliant product that will be enjoyed by millions of people, or do you think it'll kind of flop miserably? I mean, it might make these toy companies millions of dollars. It might. Or they might just alienate purists and make people wonder, why am I investing in your company again via buying your product? But let me know. I'd be fascinated to hear, what do you have to say about this subject? Other interesting business news, you have Google to make their own chips, which, unlike the Scrabble segment of the show, this actually makes 110% sense. This is the largest tech company on the planet, bar none, and they have more infrastructure than people can possibly comprehend with data centers. I mean, a wise man once said there's no such thing as the cloud, there's just someone else's computer. And really, Google is the best personification of that, since their data centers are all over the planet, and that's where a lot of the internet lives. And a lot of companies put their data, and they actually rent out their computers, just like AWS. Now, this comes with thanks to Emma Thorne over at LinkedIn News, and they say, quote, Google will introduce a custom ARM-based server chip called Axion later this year. The company announced using an in-house chip, something that other tech giants already been doing for years, will help make its cloud computing more affordable for Google, per CNBC. The business is a fast-growing source of revenue for parent Alphabet through Google's share. Though Google's share of the market still ranks its rivals, it held 7.5% of the market in 2022, while Amazon and Microsoft combined had about 62%, which, yeah, it makes sense. AWS is synonymous with cloud, Amazon Web Services. It's one of the reasons why Amazon is so astronomically successful. It's not just, they're selling shoes and random stuff on their e-commerce site. I mean, really, a lot of the money is coming from their storage of data and then be able to rent out their servers. They also note that Google is also making powerful versions of this artificial intelligence chips for developers. Now, the homegrown chips will heat up Google's competition with NVIDIA, even as it continues to rely on the semiconductor giant to power its AI efforts. So again, this is not just going to give them a competitive edge over the competition, but this is going to dramatically reduce their costs, because a lot of these companies are buying these chips from someone else is manufacturing it, and obviously there's a markup there. And I'm actually surprised they haven't been doing this years ago, because again, their data centers are astronomical in size and scale. If they can make their own chips and save even 3 to 5% in the cost, I mean, and that's 3 to 5%. If you have a dual or you have a 4 chip, you have a 4 CPU server, that adds up astronomically in the aggregate. And as every one of these cloud companies also tries to see how they can further differentiate themselves in the competition, and Google definitely needs to catch up. I mean, Amazon is number 1, Microsoft's number 2, and as I said, Google's only at 7.5%, which again, for the total market share, is pretty embarrassing if you're Google. So they're putting, in terms of what I see in my tech company, they're putting a lot more resources allocation around. They're hiring a lot more sales representatives at Google. They're trying to get more of those sales reps to prospect into enterprise accounts, to convince more businesses that they should be putting their data there and utilizing their servers with their web servers. So let me know. I think it's probably going to be a great move for Google. Can't help but think, again, it's going to cut down costs, allow them to offer a little bit more proprietary into their cloud, and may even help them accelerate ahead of the competition. The competition is so far ahead in leaps and bounds. That being said, Google has seemingly limitless resource allocation. And I think you can also buy certain accounts in terms of, you can always buy the business, some might say, in terms of you want to get a logo or you want to expand. Certainly, you undercut the market with price points, or you could increase your features. But probably it's one of the few moves where I see Google and kind of think, oh yeah, 110%, that makes sense. It's going to help them out in the long run. But let me know what you think. Be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now going over to the culture part of the podcast, you have a school staff member beating a disabled child in Colorado, which, geez Louise, I can't imagine being so mentally vacuous, but, well, I should clarify, the evil person being so mentally vacuous, not insinuating anyone with, predispositions to such things. Now, this from lives at TikTok, and she says, quote, graphic, a staff member at a school in Denver, Colorado was arrested after she was caught on video beating a disabled child. What is going on with these schools? How are they vetting their staff? Let's see if there's any sound to this. Not so much. Yeah, so I don't want to say she's bigger than Lizzo, but she's certainly putting a stress on the suspension of the bus being utilized for transportation, and the staff member is beating a small child, probably about a 10th of her size, or maybe even a 20th of her size in body mass. And again, it just looks like an innocent kid getting beat up by a staff member. Anywhere file got 8.3 million views, originally reported by Andy No, and got 55,000 likes within the first 24 hours. So that was pretty viral to say the least. Now, Right Angle News Network responded in the comments saying, quote, what exactly should be done to this woman? And that got 1.5 thousand likes, and Liv's TikTok replied and said, life in prison. And that got 5.9 thousand likes. And one of the pictures, unfortunately, is of the child. Looks like they got bruises on the legs, as well as their ear, to the point where the ear was actually bleeding. Let's see here. Scrolling down, you have Paul Zazupa saying, quote, this woman in Denver needs to get serious jail time for this. There's absolutely no excuse. Imagine if the races were reversed in this scenario. There'd be calls for a life sentence. Unbelievable. Unquote, getting 3,000 or 3.1 thousand likes. In the video is a large African-American woman. It looks like it is a small white child in reference to the races that he was referencing in that post, or that comment rather. One bad dude said, quote, give the parents of the child 5 minutes along with this monster, unquote, getting 3.2 thousand likes. Valentin Gomez says, quote, life sentence for all those that commit crimes against children, quote, getting 1.8 thousand likes. Mr. Bigglesworth Memes, though they did not respond in a meme form, nevertheless, they did say in type form, this is a hate crime, unquote, getting 2.5 thousand likes. The United States, with hate, and technically yes, or actually, we don't know if this was specifically motivated by race, but even if it was, given kind of what we know about the courts these days, I don't think you'll ever actually see that executed in the court in terms of this large African-American woman being charged with a hate crime against this little white child. So again, if we don't know if it technically is yet. We don't know if she intentionally did this because of that. But even if she did, I don't think it would actually pan out. In the court of public opinion, some people might realize this and some people might be more irate because of it. But from a legal perspective, we usually do not see those types of charges being brought up in those instances. Donna Ray Leeds says, quote, she hates white people and hates their children. It's a hate crime, unquote, getting 2.1 thousand likes. And again, let's see here. I'm trying to see if maybe there's volume I'm not hearing. No, because it looks like it's it's security, what do you call it, footage from the school bus. So I'm not hearing any audio. Let's see here. Now scrolling down, get a couple more comments here. Wealth Turtle says, quote, these are the people that want reparations, getting 549 likes. Florida 1 says, quote, answer, there's no vetting. How do you police or vet morality in a job application, getting 159 likes. Frank says, quote, that's a treatment waiting for you in American nursing homes too, unquote, getting 1,000 likes. Ethos says, quote, zero chance this wasn't looked over by the other school admins. The entire district needs to be investigated with a fine-tooth comb, unquote, getting 526 likes. Let's see here. Johnny Fiasco says, quote, the amount of rage this video brings up in me cannot be adequately expressed in words, getting 524 likes. Allie Beth Stuckey says, quote, can't even articulate what would be going through my head if that were my child. She deserves a long sentence. She will continue to be nothing but a menace and a predator, unquote, getting 426 likes. America Memed says, quote, send this racist piece of trash to prison, getting 1.1 thousand likes. So it'll be interesting to see what the actual, it looks to me, let's see here. Certainly be assault. Let's see here. But at the end of the day, we'll see if charges are successfully brought against this perpetrator and if they're actually sentenced appropriately and they're actually sent out to prison, what the trial might be like. Do they just, it's one of those things where, there's no conceivable way this person could be like, oh yeah, I was threatened by this child that's a 20th of my size. So I don't see any conceivable way this would be a self-defense instance. I don't think they could use that argument. Again, I don't see how this person could be innocent. We'll see what kind of legal defense they put up if they have their day in court, or the school just kind of toss this under the rug, so to say, and then just try to ignore this. But let me know. Do you think this will be done by the end of the a couple of days later? No one will notice, or do you think this will kind of boil the surface and stay in front of the cultural lexicon? As always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting cultural news, you have a California public library having a vending machine that gives out free Plan B, lube, condoms, and more right next to an elementary school, which also shows you the priorities of California. Now, this comes to us thanks to Libs of TikTok, and they specifically said, quote, public library in California located next to a public elementary school has a vending machine that dispenses condoms, lube, and Plan B for free. Why is a public school using our tax dollars to offer lube, Plan B to kids without their parents' knowledge? This apparently was first reported by Beth Young-Born. And let me see here. And she says, quote, okay, friends, here's a new topic besides gender, if you believe in it. What do you think about the Yolo County Library providing free condoms, lube kits, and Plan B kit to all library patrons? This includes students next door at the North Davis Elementary School and Davis High, all free and no parent permission required. Let's see, and that got I'm actually surprised it's going to go more viral. It only got about 118,000 views and 2,000 likes. Maybe it's just because it's California, so they all are kind of we expect it from that state. And again, in some instances, you actually need a prescription. You need permission to get those types of not paraphernalia, those types of accessories and Plan B. I guess sexual activity accessories and Plan B. And yet they just have a vending machine where you just toss in money and you get it instantly. So I don't know, maybe people are not just shocked anymore. The bar's been lowered so much. But let's go in the comments and find out. You have Paul Zupa saying, quote, California supplying free sex-related products to children is perverse and should be illegal. But there's no surprise coming from California, where pedos run free and the government has zero morals. Parents should sue to get this machine removed. I'm getting 26 likes, which, in terms of deflection and, I guess, plausible deniability from the public library, they would argue maybe it's for lower income people or it's for the public service. But there are certain rules, laws, and stipulations around certain businesses that you could put around school. Granted, every state is different, every county is different. But, for example, in most areas in the United States, it's against the building code and in the county code to build, for example, a strip store, strip club right next to a public school or within a certain radius of a public school. Now, I'm certain in some areas this would be banned or it would not be permitted. But again, in California, I would guess this is 110% legal in California in that area. Now, Libercat Media TM says, quote, oh, that's not all. Notice that there is a fentanyl test in there too. COVID is default. Why are they giving these items away to innocent children? Getting 25 likes. Let's see. Texas Dog Dad says, quote, Plan B is a drug. Let's forget how improper this is for a moment. How do you freely hand out medication? How is freely handing out medication legal? Getting 31 likes. Which, yeah, that's a good point. Planet of Memes says, quote, leave the kids alone, getting 19 likes. Zach Ryder says, quote, it seems inappropriate for a public school to provide such items without parental consent. Parents should be involved in such decisions regarding their children's health, and quote, getting 10 likes. Now, Kevin Meyer says, quote, which library? Plan B pills are like $50. I need to go stock up on them and sell them in my neighborhood at half the price. And quote, getting 1 like. We found it, a contrarian statement. Corey says, quote, this is somehow negative. I'm quote, getting 9 likes, which, again, I think there would be a lot less scrutiny about the situation if this was 100 miles from a school or not within a close proximity of a school. And I'm sure some of my libertarian friends would say, 110%, put the machine up. Well, that being said, it's also being funded somehow, so their tax dollars being used for that. So now that I actually think about it, no, they probably won't be a fan either because the government's using your tax dollars to give away things for personal use for people. Think Harder says, quote, because tax is theft and they can use stolen tax dollars for whatever they want, you don't do nothing about it. Or you won't do nothing about it. Grammar be damned, that did get 6 likes. Now, he says you won't do nothing about it. That's a double negative, meaning you will do something about it. But nevertheless, you could vote differently. Vote for someone who wants to slash the budget and get rid of things like free vending machines. And again, on the opposite side of the political spectrum and cultural spectrum, there are some people who would probably vote for this machine, argue that it does some good in their perspective. Now, at the end of the day, when it comes to politics and culture, well, for politicians, they care more because they'll do whatever their opinions change very fluidly. But in that area of California, I would guess that more than 51% of the population, or more than 50% of the population would believe in this type of machine. So from a political perspective, I guess it makes sense why they put it up. And again, I'm sure they will deny, like, oh, it just happens to be next door to the elementary school. We don't really want the kids doing that. Now, that being said, you could easily fix that situation or that concern by having something like a photo ID requirement, or have an instance where in order for the machine to dispense anything, you have to have an ID scan. Now, that being said, we know that California does not like IDs, but nevertheless, in terms of thinking of a solution that might make some people happy or might make a majority of people happy, maybe you have the machine, but you have that photo ID where it scans your government ID, and only then does it dispense it when it confirms your age. That might be somewhat logical, but then again, from a moral perspective and religious perspective, a lot of people think Plan B is akin to abortion, because again, you're ending an abortion, though other people would argue it's not as invasive as the other techniques that are used, and again, it's supposed to be like the day after. So that being said, it's a very nuanced argument, some might say, although some I would argue is much more straightforward. But then today is pretty controversial. Sarah Smith also says next they'll be handing out needles for kids to inject themselves with, getting 4 likes, which some cities actually do the free needle exchange program where they'll incentivize people to continue using drugs with free needles, which, yes, your tax dollars are paying for, depending on if your area actually agrees and supports those initiatives. I believe they are specifically called something to the kin of the Clean Needle Program or something to that effect. Let's see. Serene Sofique says, quote, "Oh, honey, is this the latest plot twist in the public soap opera? Library soap opera? Tune in as taxpayer dollars play matchmaker? Plot hole, since when do books need lube?" I'm getting 2 likes. Not to brag, but I do read at least 1 book a month, and I've never needed lube for that activity. I mean, I have books behind me, and they're firmly stacked on top of each other. One would think you would not them to be all wishy-washy and just wash, with less friction coefficient, the books actually might very well just slip over and fall off to the ground. Scrolling down, you have a couple of people saying disturbing and inappropriate, getting between 0 and 3 likes. Wealth Turtle says Democrat cities are a disaster, getting 5 likes. So, pretty controversial. Again, in terms of this sample size on this post, this is from, Liv's TikTok, so more often than not, the people agreeing with her are going to be the one following her, though we did find 1 or 2 contrarian statements. I think the people in California, 110% agree with this policy. I don't think they have any issues with it. If anything, they probably voted for it. So I realistically don't see anyone getting primaried or voted out of office because of this instance or this budget allocation from this district. Though let me know in the comments. Do you think it really didn't gain much steam, but maybe it will throughout the month? And let me know. As always, it'd be fascinating to hear what you have to say. Now going over to the political part of the podcast, you have Alex Jones to sue the CIA and FBI for civil rights violations. Now this comes to us thanks to Benny Johnson, and he says, quote, "Bombshell, Alex Jones confirms he will sue the FBI and CIA after a CIA agent admitted agency targeted Jones to destroy his career. Quote, I'm planning on launching a lawsuit against the CIA and FBI. I've retained firms to sue for civil rights violations, government racketeering operation," unquote. And this is from Alex Jones. And it's only about 3 minutes long via Benny Johnson and Alex Jones. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and play that really quick.
FBI agent, a CIA boss. He's a contract manager over large contract operations. That's a boss. That's like a mini section chief, saying all of this and admitting all of this like it's no big deal. He needs to be subpoenaed by Congress. I am planning to launch a lawsuit against the CIA and the FBI. We have to bring all this out. And right as my bankruptcy comes to a close and right as all this stuff's being finalized, it's really God working here that this came out at this time.
You just said you were planning on suing the federal government. What would a Alex Jones versus the U.S. government look like?
Well, I'm talking to different law firms right now that specialize in this. In fact, when I get off the feed with you, I'm going to get back on the phone with the lawyers. It's obviously a civil rights violation. It's a government racketeering operation using cutouts. And look, I mean, they come after my mother, my father, my wife. In these mediations, they've said, listen, just come out against the Second Amendment and we'll drop all this. I mean, they've done that repeatedly. They've even said, listen, we're a mafia and there's nothing you can do to stop us, to my face, in front of my lawyer, in front of Norm Pattis. And so they're very arrogant. I mean, these are the sellouts. These are the traitors. These are the people that really love being under the corrupt FBI's wings, under the CIA's wings. They get a thrill. They get to go out and persecute fellow Americans, lie about them, say all these horrible things, and then say you said it, steal your identity, silence you so they can all pile in on you, make movies about themselves with judges and flash bulbs, and oh, we're so great. We went out and got the big Goliath. No, you guys are the Goliath. I'm the David. You misrepresented what I did to make me a monster, and it's backfired.
So when you say you're going to file a civil rights lawsuit against the government over this is something you've clearly talked about. You've retained counsel on this. Would you go on First Amendment grounds that they eliminated your right to free speech, that the right to a free press? And it seems like so much of what you do is, of course, crystallized in the First Amendment first for a reason.
I've been talking to 4 different law firms, and I'm literally supposed to be on with one of them 5 minutes ago. I will come back with you tomorrow, or I'll come back with you today. I love your show. It's huge. But absolutely, I've got to get the wheels on this thing rolling, and we've got a lot of options. But again, it's not for me. It's about to put it out in court and show the evidence, and then drag them out in the light of discovery and show what they've really done. And it's about congressional hearings, and it's about stopping these rogue agencies that have become domestic KGB operations. And if Elon Musk wants to help me, I know he's been backing a lot of lawsuits, out there for freedom. I would love to see the truth came out, because when I told him in that 2.5-hour interview we did 3-4 months ago with Mario Default, he said he wanted to hear, the long story. So I told him, I talked like 10 minutes telling him the truth about what happened. And the PR firms, he goes, oh, yes, the PR firms, which is the intelligence agency's mouthpieces, and how they did all that, how they created this Alex Jones that didn't exist, and then had a show trial. And then the very same law firm suing me, or that sued me, is the one suing Elon Musk. So that's also a wake-up call for Elon.
So it'll be interesting to see the ultimate David versus Goliath. I mean, Alex Jones has not even a fraction of the resource allocation that the U.S. government has. And it went viral, to say the least. It got 1 million views and 37,000 likes. I can't help but think, if Alex Jones, and again, they wouldn't actually allow it on the platform like GoFundMe. I'm pretty sure they are pretty biased. But if you were to try to raise funds for that lawsuit, how many people would throw in a couple bucks just to help fuel that fight? I can't help but imagine it'd be pretty substantial. And again, we've had, thanks to Twitter files, thanks to Elon released them, we have specific instances where the U.S. government did force social media companies to censor millions of Americans against a blatant violation of the First Amendment. And so far, we've seen pretty much no recourse. Have you heard of anyone in the U.S. government getting fired lately for being that morally vacuous and breaking the law? I haven't yet. Maybe someday they'll be held accountable for their actions. I mean, I wouldn't put the odds high. But going to the comments, let's see what are the top ones. Yeah, Paul Zazupa saying, quote, sue them into oblivion, Alex. Do it, getting 222 likes. Dr. A.T. Seek Nick says, quote, Alex Jones is not suicidal. Code 187, getting 191 likes. Jason says, quote, I support Alex Jones 100%, getting 139 likes. Olin Musk Global says, quote, it's happening. And someone with a little hand gesture like that says, close. It says, how close humanity is to understanding their governments are just organized criminals, unquote, getting 187 likes. Wall Street Ape says, quote, not only do they need to be sued, but both the FBI and CIA need to be abolished. Neither agency serve their intended purposes anymore. We need to prosecute those in charge and create new solutions with America First oversight that strictly adhere to the Constitution, unquote. Getting 523 likes. Scrolling down more and more. You have Grumpy saying, not a fan of Alex Jones, but I hope he gets $1 billion from the government, getting 84 likes. General TM says, quote, more reason to break up these agencies, getting 64 likes. Jake Hansen says, quote, Benny's bombshells are never bombshells, unquote, getting 45 likes. Which, interesting enough, 8 people did respond to that. I wonder what they were insinuating. Let's see here. Maybe they're saying because it was a day late or something? Scrolling down more and more, you got, let's see. Evan Dreyer saying, quote, hope he gets 500 million out of them, getting 16 likes. Deb says they should be in prison for this. Unfortunately, the taxpayers will pay, unquote, getting 16 likes. Let's see. Scotty says defund the CIA and FBI, getting 24 likes. And overwhelming support. Let's see here. Gavin, no, let's see. Let's see. Kurt Reynolds says, quote, I bet the entire government is shaking their boots, unquote, getting 16 likes, which probably not. Again, the resource allocation, the government has seemingly unlimited. I'm sure they're not too worried. Mr. Dan says 100%, getting 11 likes. Let's see here. Bam says, quote, I'm sure him calling Sandy Hook a psyop did more to destroy his career than the CIA could have ever done, getting 59 likes. Which, again, that's when he thought there was a conspiracy where he thought Sandy Hook was perpetrated by the government in a ruse or a justification to take Americans' guns away, which the government has exploited they always seem to exploit bad things to push their agendas, especially politicians. So as soon as something bad happens, they say, oh yeah, vote for me and I'll fix it with this new law. Which never really does. Now, Alex is insinuating that they actually caused the event and their parents were actors. And he turned out that was the wrong call. Now, the parents turned around and sued him for over like $1 billion, with the lawyer specifically saying they were doing it to show a message. So one man, I think the total coverage on Sandy Hook from Alex Jones is like 28 minutes long, and he sued him for the GDP of most countries. For 28 minutes of conspiracy theories? I still kind of goes to show you how the First Amendment is being whittled away, which I always tell people Alex Jones is a perfect example to use. If you ask someone, do they believe in the First Amendment? Good litmus test is Alex Jones. If they say Alex Jones deserves free speech, they're probably a true patriot American. Because again, there are a lot of things Alex Jones says that I definitely don't agree with, and some I think are crazy outliers. Though it's quite concerning when some of the things he says turns out to be true. So there's instances where, like the Founding Fathers, I may not agree with what someone is saying, but I'll fight to the death for the right to say it. So I always tell people, no, I don't agree with what Alex Jones says all the time. But do I think he deserves to have his voice heard? 110%. So it makes America great. Or used to. And hopefully will again, as more and more people, I hope, start to realize the importance of the First Amendment. So it looks like overwhelming support. And again, it'll be fascinating to see, does the judge just simply throw out the case? I mean, what does this happen when the tires hit the pavement? Do you think he really stands a chance of winning? Will they just win and give him like a 1 penny award, which, I mean, legal systems have done with other types of other lawsuits? Let me know. It'd be fascinating to hear what you have to say. Other interesting political news, you have Tennessee passed a law to allow teachers to defend themselves and their students via the Second Amendment, and Gavin Newsom is pissed. Because, of course, only he believes that he can have the ability to defend himself and his family using the Second Amendment and firearms. Rules for thee, but not for ye. That's a bad comedy joke, I think. But nevertheless, if it wasn't for hypocrisy, the standard of hypocrisy, most politicians wouldn't have any standards at all. And this is probably one of the best examples. All these politicians have private security, well, I should clarify, paid for the U.S. tax dollar, and these usually public employees, but they have security just for themselves, utilizing the weapons that you and I are very unlikely to afford and get. Things like full auto, P90s. That's one of the staples for a lot of these security guards. And if you want one, I mean, good luck. You have to set up a firearm company because it's a firearm manufactured after 1986. I forget the actual year or date, but machine guns are prohibitive for most Americans to get because of the laws around that, which many would argue is unconstitutional. But nevertheless, in some states, in some instances, teachers who are, again, they're public employees, they have the rights taken away when they go to school, which is disgusting and morally vacuous to say the least. And many of them, if they have concealed carry permits, aka in their state, forces you to, in order to get one, you have to take a, usually a proficiency test, aka your written test, and then sometimes a proficiency test where you actually go to the range and shoot. You have to shoot with a certain amount of accuracy to get the permit. Other states in the United States have constitutional carry, where it says, hey, this is your God-given right. The government, they really shouldn't be taking your rights away. That's not their job. So as long as you're a law-abiding citizen, you can conceal carry a firearm in all areas that permit it. AKA, you cannot go into a private business that has a 30-06 or 30-07 sign prominently and properly displayed. Now, proud to say in Texas, teachers are allowed to defend themselves and their children and the students. So, good message to the bad guys. Probably a good idea not to mess with Texas. Now, Tennessee recently passed a bill. This is a headline from the Tennessean. They say, quote, Tennessee Senate passes bill allowing teachers to carry guns amid vocal protest, unquote. Which, I can't imagine how evil you are if you're actually protesting saying these teachers should be defenseless. Really? And there's so many arbitrary BS reasons for why people say they shouldn't have this ability. One that I found especially more vacuous, there's someone on X Spaces that I spoke to a couple weeks ago. He was, he was pretending. He was selling a service and or product. I don't want to say he was a red flag on Shark Tank, but he couldn't properly describe the patent that he had. He didn't know it was a product or a service. And then he couldn't describe the actual products that he sold in order to make schools safer. It sounded like it was a service, but he didn't clarify it, and he was 110% against teachers allowing the rights to defend themselves and the students. Coincidentally, that's also good for his business model. And one of the big cliche arguments he used was, well, I mean, police go and they're trained proficiency with firearms. They go to classes. I mean, they're a little best handle the situation, which, again, police in many cases are great. However, they're always a reactive force, minutes or sometimes hours away from the situation. The teachers are right there, right then. And again, the United States is very diverse. We have 50 states, and everyone, and even counties have different proficiency exams for police officers. In some cases, they just have to qualify once a year with a shooting test. I don't see any reason why a public school teacher can't go to the range at least once a month, maybe take some classes, which I think would be a much better ROI in terms of investment to defend the children, as well as a more right thing to do. And again, another cliche argument is, well, maybe the students will get hold of it. Get a good proper retention holster. Also, if it's concealed carry, the students aren't going to know you're carrying it. So there's a lot of, in my opinion, weak arguments on why people should disgustingly disarm teachers when they're in the best positions to defend the kids. Now, Gavin Newsom responded saying, quote, Tennessee Republicans have decided their solution to gun violence in schools is, all caps, more guns in schools, unquote. And he got 325,000 views and only 1.9 thousand likes, which is almost as, statistically speaking, like to view ratio, almost as unpopular as some of my videos. Not to brag, but I actually am statistically better than Gavin Newsom in that one way. Sometimes. Not all my videos, but sometimes. And the comment section, as youth might say, he got roasted or ratioed, to say the least. Because, again, that is the best way to defend students. I wholesomely agree with the statement that teachers should have the God-given right to defend themselves. They should not be disarmed because they go to school. And students should definitely not be soft targets. Israel did it right when they had the IDF decades ago. They had instances where terrorists were targeting the schools. You know what they did? Armed the teachers and put a soldier outside every single one of them. Guess what? The rates went down dramatically in terms of the attacks on the schools. Now, one of the first comments comes from Paul Zazupa saying, quote, California has the most mass shootings in the U.S., even though California has some of the strictest gun laws. Maybe Gavin Newsom should focus on the epidemic of violent crime in his state, then deal with the record amounts of homeless, illegals, and debt. Sound good, New Scum? Unquote, 972 likes and A+ for word pun. Newsom and New Scum. That I appreciate that. That's a good one. Which, if Trump didn't already use that term when he was describing him, that seems like a lost opportunity. Of all the unique names Trump has come up with for the competition and other political adversaries, that just seems like a no-brainer, right? Let's see here. California Patriot says, quote, and California is less safe. I wish Democrats hated, and this is a quote, saying, I wish Democrats hated sex offenders as much as they hate gun owners. I'm quoting 379 likes. Kevin Dalton says, quote, Gavin Newsom wants to bring his common sense gun control to red states, but has no comment about why the same laws fail Californians. I'm quoting 216 likes, which, again, when it comes to an overwhelming majority, any gun law, I would argue, the poster child of them not working is the city of Chicago, which has some of the most restrictive gun laws in the whole U.S., and yet for decades is the poster child of ineptitudes, corruption, and high crime rates and high violence also utilize guns. Another cliche argument, people say, well, they get the guns from other areas that have looser gun control laws, and then they come to Chicago, which good counterpoint would be, okay, well then, wait a minute, why aren't there the same crime rates in those other areas where the guns are coming from? Could be because your laws don't work in Illinois. Maybe you just have also cultural ineptitudes. Maybe you've been elected the same people for almost 100 years. Many contributing factors, but one thing is for sure, the gun laws do absolutely nothing in Chicago but disarm good law-abiding people. You have Joe Pags Paul Guardiano saying, quote, aren't you protected by good guys with guns 24/7? Oh my God, you have guns near you. Does that serve to increase violence or decrease violence around you? Do you read the crappy post? I'm quoting 248 likes, which, yes, 110%. Usually public officials, especially when you get to that level in the government, you're having 3, 4, 5, 6 armed security guards around you at all given times. So guns are good in that case, but not to defend kids. Good for politicians. They're worthy of protecting. That is what Gavin Newsom is saying. He deserves that privilege to actually defend himself. Not teachers, not students. Interesting, Gavin Newsom. Scrolling down, you have Max Bellino saying, quote, the perfect solution, you have to be blind to think Congress law mandating gun-free zones has worked, getting 256 likes, which, yeah, statistically speaking, an overwhelming majority of perpetrators and bad guys doing some of the most morally evil things, including mass shootings, There's no coincidence they take place in gun-free zones. All those signs do are disarm law-abiding citizens, thereby making soft targets for evil people. Which, again, is a good reason not to, vote with your dollar if you see a business that has a 30-06 or a 30-07 sign, which is against concealed carry and against open carry accordingly, or I forget what the word is for the, direct correlation to 1 and 2, but nevertheless, vote for your dollar, just don't shop there. Valentin Gomez says, quote, absolutely, teachers should be armed and ready to neutralize any threat. Let's protect the children at all costs. And quote, getting 481 likes, including myself. Lisa says, quote, for someone with so many problems at home, you spend an inordinate amount of time worrying about what other states are doing. And quote, getting 208 likes, which, again, there's so many rumors that he's going to go for president one of these days. And with Biden's decrease or decline in health, I think he's one of the top contenders. That's why he does so much pseudo campaigning going across the U.S., as well as continue to commenting on other places. Let's see here. Warrior says, quote, why don't you want students to be protected? I'm quoting 253 likes. Story Night says, quote, school shootings happen in gun-free zones. Guns don't kill people. Bad people with guns kill people. Getting 175 likes. Hearing Aid Man says, quote, so teachers went from being groomers to guardians and protectors of our children in the battlefield of war. I feel like I have whiplash. I'm quoting 44 likes and a contrarian statement, which life is a lot more interesting when you find those. Get a little boring. It's a little echo chamber. And yeah, I was going to say, good rule of thumb, I mean, not all teachers are groomers. This person is probably directly correlating that comment to the phenomenon known as the libs of TikTok, where this person finds clips of teachers who are proudly displaying their, I would say, moral ineptitudes, and with them probably sexualizing students, and they put that on TikTok. So there are some evil teachers, obviously. I mean, like every industry, like any profession, there are good people and bad people, moral, good, decent, and there are evil people. Some industries might have a higher percentage than others, but no, when it comes to teachers, yeah, there are certainly some good teachers out there. There are some good public schools out there. You might have to search a little bit these days to find one that's not politicized, or find the one that actually teaches something valuable, like knowing how to calculate a mortgage, pay off credit cards, what's the ROI of a college, but they're out there. Mr. Realty says, quote, every school shooter is stopped by a good guy with a gun every single time. More good guys with guns closer to the schools will save lives. I'm quoting 98 likes, which, another thing I contend, we have a lot of veterans who don't have jobs. It'd be a good reason. Great way to stop bad guys attacking schools. Can't beat a Marine with a rifle. Put in front of every single school. Guarantee that would decrease the amount of evil people attacking children in the schools. Guaranteed. Scrolling down more and more. Jesse says, quote, calling emoji 4 times, because crime has improved so much under your communist rule. Resign and save California, and quoting 29 likes, which, I mean, you get what you vote for. He was primaried, but everyone there just voted for him again. Jagger Dury says, quote, you are directly responsible for all the crimes committed in California since you took office. People no longer feel safe in California. I'm quoting 62 likes. Which, again, people get what they vote for. There are some people who love Gavin Newsom. It's not like, if he was so statistically unpopular in California, he wouldn't have gotten elected unless he's cheating or something. I mean, there are people who are voting for him because he has these anti-gun policies, he has anti-business policies. He will clean up the city once a year for Salesforce and maybe once a year for the Chinese when they come visit. But, yeah, some people like him. We'll do one more. Tim Pogue says, quote, school shooters by definition are cowards. They choose schools because it is a place filled with defenseless kids and unarmed adults. This will deter the cowards. As a coward yourself, you should know this. I'm quoting 57 likes, which, yes, 110%. So I'd be fascinated. If you disagree with this policy, what are the reasons you do? Have you seen it successfully, or have you seen it actually backfire? And how many of you have seen it successfully implemented? I mean, it was famous a couple of years ago. There was a school in Georgia where they put a sign that says, let's see, our teachers are carrying a 45 ACP. Guess which ones? And they did that right after a couple of days that there was a public school shooting. And that's a good way to deter some bad guys. You're sending a clear message. But, as always, let me know what you're thinking. I'd be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the business blunder of the day, you have Hyundai and Kia repairing about 3.3 million vehicles about 7 months after the fire recall. Now, this comes to us thanks to Ahane Forbes, which, fascinatingly enough, she's working at USA Today. How she's not working at Forbes is beyond me. But nevertheless, she is noting that, quote, federal safety officials say the recalled vehicle's anti-lock brake system module can leak brake fluid internally and cause an electric short, increasing the risk of fire. And this is going to be a very expensive fix, to say the least. And even more detrimental, it's related to important parts of the vehicle. Because again, a lot of business blunders we covered on the show, there are a lot of vehicle recalls, like Ford having a proliferation of having mismatched seats, taillights, and headlights in their vehicles throughout the years. I mean, that's something that's just a kind of a pain in the rear inconvenience. You have to go to the dealership, they'll flip, switching out for the correct one. It's not detrimental to the drivetrain or the driving experience. You might just look a little stupid driving a Ford with a mismatched headlight or tail light or seat, granted, but it's not detrimental, so to say. Now, this one affects a lot of these vehicles, and the total is quite staggering. Now, it looks like in terms of incidents, they said Hyundai said that there have been 21 vehicle fires and 22 thermal incidents in the United States. Kia reported 1 engine compartment fire, 3 fires within the unit, and 6 melting components incidents, according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Now, they also say, quote, NHTSA continues to monitor the efficiency of Hyundai Kia remedies to address these recalls due to the brake fluid leaks and is working with the automakers to ensure its highest level of safety. Let's see here. And again, this is going to be an expensive fix, so not great if you're an employee or shareholder or consumer, because the money's going to come from somewhere. It's either going to increase the cost of goods for new vehicles, or they're just going to be less profitable. Now, in terms of the vehicles recalled, sit down, because it's going to take quite a bit. The Kia vehicles looks like approximately 1.64 Hyundai Genesis. So we'll start with the Hyundai, actually, instead of the Kia. Same company. Here's the list of the recalled vehicles. 2012 to 2015, Accent. 2012 to 2015, Azera. 2011 to 2015, Elantra. 2013 to 2015, Elantra Coupe. 2014 to 2015, Equus. Equus? However you pronounce that. 2014 to 2015, Genesis Coupe. 2013 to 2015, Santa Fe. 2013, Santa Fe Sport. 2011 to 2015, Sonata HEV. 2010 to 2013, Tuscan. 2015, Tuscan Fuel Cell. 2012 to 2015, Veloster. 2010 to 2012, Veracruz. So that's all the Hyundais that are being recalled. Then you have Kia. They're recalling 1.93 million of their vehicles. And those vehicles include 2014 to 2016 Cadenza, 2011 to 2013 Forte Coupe, 2015 to 2017 K900, 2010 to 2015 Optima, 2011 to 2013 Optima Hybrid, 2011 to 2017 Rio, 2010 Rondo, 2011 to 2014 Sornado, 2011 to 2013 Soul, and 2010 to 2013 Sportage, which is quite a few to say at least. Now, in terms of the remedy of how they're trying to fix this, they note that, quote, to address this issue, Hyundai is replacing its ABS module fuse in the affected vehicles. This is according to Iriel Gabriel, Senior Group Manager of Corporate Marketing Public Relations at Hyundai. They say that, quote, Kia will install a new fuse to prevent any overcurrent condition in the hydraulic electric controls unit, electricals controlled circuit board, unquote. Let's see here. Looks like they will be sending a company reach out to all drivers that are affected by the end of June, or just tune into the show daily. And more often than not, there's a lot of automotive business blunders. Also, one of the most complex and there's more components in that than pretty much anything else a person will buy in their life. And they're telling people, they're actually telling people you should park your vehicle outside just in case it bursts into flames. And thankfully, I mean, the silver lining is, and granted, if you squint hard enough in life, I'd like to say you're able to find a silver lining darn near anywhere. Silver lining in this case being, it has not been deadly. No one has passed away from the specific incident. It hasn't taken anyone's life, so there's a little silver lining there. Which still, this company has gone leaps and bounds the past 20 years, especially with their quality in general overall. They, for a while, had one of the best warranties, bar none. I think it's like 10-year, 10,000 mile, which is unprecedented. He's even better than Honda, Toyota, everyone. And the interiors have got a lot nicer. They're a lot more reliable in general. So they've come a long way, and they are certainly trying. It kind of helps to have some German engineering in there when they poach some talent. But nevertheless, they are still moving in the right direction. But having a recall that goes directly against the new image you're trying to create and then trying to increase the brand perception. And again, you're going to have to... It's never cost a consumer but it is going to from a fiscal cost, but it's going to cost you your time, your energy. Might even have to worry about getting a rental vehicle for a couple of days if it takes a little while to repair or get to your vehicle to be repaired. So having an issue that is, again, a potential fire hazard and affects so many vehicles, I gotta say, that is certainly the business blunder of the day. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in. Again, we're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you could click that button, I would greatly appreciate it. Also, leave us a thumbs up, thumbs down, or comment. It's a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take the time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.